In the peaceful Igbo village of Umuachikwu, where the air was always thick with the scent of palm wine and fresh earth, lived a young woman named Ngozi. Umuachikwu was a place where tradition held a firm grip on the people, and the rhythms of life were dictated by the rising and setting of the sun. The villagers were known for their vibrant festivals, rich customs, and the warm hospitality that greeted anyone who set foot on their red soil. Ngozi, in her mid-20s, was a woman of remarkable beauty. Her skin, the color of honey under the sun, was smooth and flawless. Her long, thick hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of silk, and her eyes, bright and full of life, held a certain allure that was impossible to ignore. But beyond her physical beauty, Ngozi was known for something more, a fascination with men who were, as the village gossip would say, blessed by the gods. Since her teenage years, Ngozi had developed a peculiar interest in men with oversized manhoods. It wasn't something she talked about openly, but those who had been close to her knew that her relationships were often short-lived. The men she dated, though kind and handsome, never seemed to satisfy a deep yearning she felt inside her. In Umuachikwu, it wasn't unusual for a young woman to be picky about her suitors. But for Ngozi, her attraction went beyond the usual qualities of strength, kindness, and wealth. She sought something more tangible, something that she believed would bring her the ultimate satisfaction. Over the years, Ngozi had been with a few men from her village. Each relationship began with excitement and hope, but they all ended the same way: disappointment. The first was Obinna, a strong and hard-working farmer who adored Ngozi. He was everything a woman could want in a husband: reliable, loving, and generous. But after a few months, Ngozi found herself restless and unfulfilled. Obinna is a good man, she would tell herself, but something is missing. The next was Chibueze, the son of a wealthy trader. He showered Ngozi with gifts and took her on trips to nearby towns. But even his wealth couldn't fill the void she felt. No matter how many times she tried to convince herself that these men were enough, the longing for something more kept gnawing at her. Her friends didn't understand. They saw her as the luckiest girl in the village, beautiful, sought after by many, and always with a man by her side. But Ngozi knew that none of these men could satisfy the desire that burned within her. One evening, as the women of Umuachikwu gathered at the stream to fetch water, the conversation turned to the men in the neighboring Hausa community. The Hausa people were known for their fair skin and tall stature, and their community was just a few miles away from Umuachikwu. They often traded goods with the villagers, and stories about their way of life intrigued the people of Umuachikwu. It was during this conversation that Ngozi first heard the name Adamu. The women spoke in hushed tones about this young Hausa man who was not only handsome but also incredibly wealthy. Adamu's father, Dan Musa, was a rich man who owned vast grain fields in the north, and his family was highly respected in their community. But what caught Ngozi's attention was the whisper that followed. Adamu, they said, was blessed in a way that few men were. He was known for having an oversized manhood, something that had driven many women away despite his charm and wealth. There were even rumors that Adamu used a local enhancement called Burantashi, which made his size even more intimidating. As the women giggled and exchanged knowing glances, Ngozi felt a spark of curiosity ignite within her. Could this be the man she had been searching for? The one who could finally satisfy the desires that no other man had been able to? A few weeks later, Ngozi had her first chance to meet Adamu. The villagers of Umuachikwu were preparing for a market day, and traders from neighboring communities, including Adamu, were expected to attend. Ngozi dressed carefully that morning, choosing a wrapper that clung to her curves and accentuated her figure. She braided her hair and adorned it with beads, determined to make an impression. When she arrived at the market, her heart skipped a beat as she spotted him. Adamu was even more handsome than she had imagined. His light skin seemed to glow under the sunlight, and his tall, athletic build made him stand out among the crowd. He was dressed in a flowing white robe that contrasted sharply with his dark, curly hair, and he moved with a grace and confidence that drew the eyes of everyone around him. As Ngozi approached, Adamu turned and their eyes met. There was an instant connection, a spark that neither of them could deny. Adamu smiled, revealing a set of perfect white teeth, and greeted her in flawless English. "Good afternoon, my lady," he said, his voice smooth and cultured. "You must be Ngozi. I've heard much about you." Ngozi blushed, taken aback by his charm and the way he spoke. He was unlike any man she had met before. His mannerisms were refined, his speech eloquent. He was, as Ngozi would later tell her friends, a man who spoke the Queen's English. They spent the rest of the day together, walking through the market, talking, and getting to know each other. Adamu was intelligent and well-traveled, and he fascinated Ngozi with stories of his journeys across Nigeria and beyond. As the sun began to set, Ngozi realized that she had found something special in Adamu, something that went beyond his physical attributes. But beneath the surface, the curiosity that had drawn her to him still lingered. She wondered if the rumors were true, if Adamu was indeed as blessed as the women at the stream had said. As their relationship deepened over the following weeks, Ngozi found herself thinking more and more about what their first intimate encounter would be like. As their relationship blossomed, Ngozi became more enamored with Adamu. He was everything she had ever wanted: handsome, wealthy, intelligent, and, if the rumors were true, capable of fulfilling her deepest desires. But as much as she enjoyed their time together, there was always a lingering question in her mind. What would their first intimate encounter be like? The thought consumed her, keeping her awake at night as she imagined what it would be like to be with him. She pictured their bodies entwined, the passion, the intensity, but also the fear. What if she couldn't handle it? What if the reality was too much for her to bear? Despite her reservations, Ngozi decided to take the bold step. One evening, after they had spent the day together, she agreed to visit Adamu's house. She had dressed carefully, wearing a wrapper that hugged her body and a top that accentuated her curves. As she walked to his house, her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of excitement and fear coursing through her veins. When she arrived, Adamu welcomed her with a warm smile. His house was as impressive as he was, spacious, clean, and filled with beautiful furniture and decorations that spoke of his wealth. They sat together, talking and laughing, but Ngozi's mind was elsewhere. She knew what she had come for, and she could sense that Adamu did too. As the evening progressed, Adamu gently took her hand and led her to his bedroom. Ngozi's heart raced as they entered the room, and she felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. The room was dimly lit, and the air was thick with the scent of incense. Adamu moved closer to her, his hands caressing her skin, and for a moment, all of Ngozi's fears melted away. But as they began to undress, the reality of the situation hit her. Adamu was indeed as blessed as the rumors had said, perhaps even more so. As she saw the full extent of his manhood, Ngozi's heart skipped a beat, and a wave of panic washed over her. It was too much. She couldn't do it. Without thinking, Ngozi grabbed her wrapper and bolted for the door. Adamu called after her, but she didn't stop. She ran through the house, clutching her wrapper around her body, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. By the time she reached the front door, she was in full-blown flight mode, driven by a mix of fear and humiliation. As she fled into the night, Ngozi couldn't help but think about how foolish she had been. Her obsession with finding a man who could satisfy her had led her into a situation that she couldn't handle. She had been so focused on the physical that she had ignored everything else: her feelings, her comfort, her happiness. In the days that followed, Ngozi was overwhelmed by a flood of emotions. She oscillated between embarrassment, confusion, and disappointment. The dream of finding the perfect man, one who could fulfill her every fantasy, had crumbled. Her obsession with physical attributes had led her into an unexpected, bewildering encounter that left her questioning everything she thought she knew about love. She avoided Adamu, too ashamed to face him. She couldn't stop thinking about that night, replaying it over and over in her mind. Her friends noticed her mood, but when they asked what was wrong, she waved them off, unable to share her turmoil. But even in her confusion, she couldn't deny that she missed Adamu. He had treated her with a kindness and respect that none of the other men had shown her. He had made her laugh, made her feel special. She realized that it wasn't just his physical appearance that had drawn her to him. It was something deeper. Finally, after days of reflection, Ngozi knew she needed to confront her feelings. She had to see Adamu, to apologize for her sudden departure, and to face whatever consequences might follow. She had been foolish, chasing a fantasy that had nearly cost her something real and meaningful. On a cool evening, Ngozi gathered her courage and walked to Adamu's home. The path that led to his house seemed longer than usual, each step weighted with uncertainty. When she arrived, her heart pounded in her chest as she knocked on his door. Adamu opened the door, his expression softening when he saw her. There was no anger, no judgment in his eyes, only understanding. He welcomed her inside, and they sat in his small but cozy living room, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. "Adamu," Ngozi began, her voice shaky. "I'm sorry. I was overwhelmed and I didn't know what to do. I ran because I was scared, and I didn't understand my own feelings." Adamu listened quietly, his gaze never leaving hers. When she finished, he nodded, his voice gentle when he spoke. "I understand, Ngozi. It was a lot to take in, but you don't need to apologize for being scared. I care about you, and I never want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable." Tears welled up in Ngozi's eyes. She hadn't expected such understanding, and it made her realize just how much she had taken Adamu for granted. She had been so focused on the physical that she had almost missed the emotional connection that was growing between them. "I've been thinking a lot," she said, wiping her tears. "I've realized that I was chasing the wrong things. I was so obsessed with finding a man who could satisfy me physically that I ignored everything else. But now I see that there's so much more to you, Adamu. You're kind, intelligent, and you make me feel safe. I don't want to lose that." Adamu reached out and gently took her hand. "Ngozi, I've cared about you from the moment we met, but a relationship isn't just about physical attraction. It's about trust, respect, and understanding each other. I want us to build something real, something that can last." His words settled over her like a warm blanket, comforting and reassuring. For the first time, Ngozi felt like she was making a decision that was truly right for her. It wasn't about chasing after a fantasy anymore. It was about building a future with someone who saw and valued her for who she really was. With their newfound understanding, Ngozi and Adamu began to rebuild their relationship on a stronger foundation. They took things slowly, spending more time together not just as potential lovers, but as friends. They shared stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and their fears. They laughed together, learned from each other, and, most importantly, they listened. Adamu took Ngozi to the fields his family owned, showing her the vast stretches of land where grains grew in abundance. He explained the work that went into cultivating the crops and the pride his family took in their labor. Ngozi, in turn, introduced Adamu to the vibrant traditions of her own community. She took him to the local markets, where the air was filled with the smell of fresh produce and the sound of traders haggling over prices. She introduced him to her favorite foods, teaching him how to prepare traditional Igbo dishes. Their relationship didn't go unnoticed by their communities. At first, there was gossip. People whispered about the Igbo girl who had fallen for the Hausa man. Some were skeptical, others curious. But as the months passed, the gossip began to die down, replaced by admiration for the way Ngozi and Adamu handled their relationship with maturity and respect. Adamu's family welcomed Ngozi with open arms, treating her as one of their own. They respected her individuality and appreciated her efforts to learn about their culture. Likewise, Ngozi's family, who had been wary at first, grew to respect Adamu for his kindness, intelligence, and the way he treated their daughter. As Ngozi and Adamu's relationship blossomed, it began to have a ripple effect on the larger community. The Igbo and Hausa communities of Umuachikwu had always lived side by side, but there had been an unspoken divide between them. They interacted for trade and necessary business, but there was little social mingling. Ngozi and Adamu's relationship started to change that. Their love story became a symbol of unity, showing that despite cultural differences, love and mutual respect could bring people together. It wasn't long before other young people in the community began to follow their example. Friendships between Igbo and Hausa youth flourished, and soon, there were more intermarriages between the two groups. This newfound unity extended beyond personal relationships. The communities began to collaborate more closely on various projects, from farming to local festivals. The annual market day, which had once been a divided affair with separate sections for Igbo and Hausa traders, became a vibrant celebration of diversity. People from both communities shared their foods, music, and crafts, enriching each other's lives in ways they had never imagined before. The elders of the two communities took notice and began to work together to strengthen these bonds. They organized joint meetings to discuss issues that affected both groups and found common ground on many matters. The shared respect and cooperation between the communities grew, leading to a stronger, more united Umuachikwu. Despite the growing acceptance of their relationship, Ngozi and Adamu still faced challenges. There were some who could not accept the idea of an Igbo woman marrying a Hausa man, and they voiced their disapproval loudly. A few members of Ngozi's extended family, steeped in tradition, warned her that she was making a mistake. They believed that the differences in culture and language would eventually drive a wedge between her and Adamu. Adamu, too, faced pressure from some members of his community. There were whispers that he was abandoning his heritage by choosing to marry outside of his tribe. Some even suggested that Ngozi's influence would weaken his ties to his family and culture. But Ngozi and Adamu stood firm. They had come too far to let others dictate their lives. They continued to support each other, finding strength in their love and in the support of their immediate families. They knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, but they were determined to face any challenges together. In the midst of these challenges, there were also triumphs. Ngozi's relationship with Adamu had helped her grow as a person. She became more confident, more sure of what she wanted from life. She found herself becoming an advocate for unity and understanding between different cultures, speaking out whenever she encountered prejudice or ignorance. Adamu, too, grew in his understanding of love and relationships. He learned that a true partnership was built on more than just physical attraction. It was about mutual respect, open communication, and shared goals. He became a respected figure in both communities, known not just for his looks or his family's wealth, but for his integrity and the way he treated those around him. As the bond between the Igbo and Hausa communities grew stronger, the time came for Ngozi and Adamu to solidify their relationship. They decided to get married, a decision that was met with great excitement from both their families. The wedding was planned as a grand celebration that would bring together the entire village. It was to be a fusion of Igbo and Hausa traditions, a symbol of the unity that their love had helped foster. The preparations took months, with both families contributing to the event. On the day of the wedding, the village of Umuachikwu was a hive of activity. The ceremony took place under a large canopy, decorated with vibrant fabrics that represented both cultures. The air was filled with the sounds of drums, flutes, and singing, as guests from both communities arrived to witness the union. Ngozi looked radiant in her traditional Igbo attire, her skin glowing as she walked down the aisle with her family. Adamu stood waiting, dressed in a rich Hausa robe, his heart swelling with pride and love. The ceremony was a blend of both cultures, with elders from both communities giving their blessings. As they exchanged vows, Ngozi and Adamu looked into each other's eyes, feeling a profound sense of unity and purpose. The ceremony was a blend of both Igbo and Hausa traditions, with elders from both communities giving their blessings. It was a powerful symbol of the new bond between their people, a testament to the changes that love and understanding can bring. The wedding feast was a grand affair, with dishes from both cultures prepared and served. Guests danced to a mix of Igbo highlife and Hausa folk music, celebrating the union with joyous abandon. It was a night of laughter, dance, and shared stories, an evening where barriers fell away, replaced by a spirit of camaraderie and celebration. As the night progressed, Ngozi and Adamu took to the dance floor surrounded by their families and friends. Their happiness was evident, their love a beacon of hope and unity. It was clear that their relationship had transcended the boundaries of their individual cultures, creating something truly special. The wedding marked the beginning of a new chapter not only for Ngozi and Adamu, but for their communities as well. The celebration became a turning point, highlighting the power of love to bridge divides and forge new connections. After the wedding, Ngozi and Adamu settled into their new life together. They chose to live in Umuachikwu, where they could contribute to the community that had supported their relationship. Their home became a gathering place for people from both cultures, a symbol of their commitment to fostering unity and understanding. Ngozi and Adamu worked on various projects aimed at strengthening the bonds between the Igbo and Hausa communities. They organized cultural exchange programs where members of each community could learn about the traditions, languages, and customs of the other. These programs were well received and helped to build a deeper appreciation and respect between the two groups. Their efforts had a ripple effect, encouraging more people to engage in intercultural dialogue and cooperation. The market days became a vibrant celebration of both Igbo and Hausa cultures, with mixed stalls showcasing a variety of foods, crafts, and music. Festivals that once highlighted the differences between the communities now celebrated their shared values and unity. As time went on, Ngozi and Adamu's relationship continued to flourish. They welcomed children into their lives, and their family became a living testament to the harmony that could be achieved through mutual respect and love. Their children grew up with a rich blend of both cultures, learning to appreciate and celebrate their diverse heritage. Their story inspired other young people in Umuachikwu to look beyond superficial differences and to seek connections based on shared values and mutual respect. Intermarriages between the Igbo and Hausa communities became more common, and the once separate cultures began to merge more seamlessly. Ngozi and Adamu's children grew up in a community where cultural diversity was embraced and celebrated. They learned the languages of both their parents, participated in both Igbo and Hausa traditions, and contributed to the ongoing dialogue between the two communities. Years later, Ngozi and Adamu looked back on their journey with pride and contentment. Their relationship had not only transformed their own lives, but had also made a lasting impact on their community. The once divided village of Umuachikwu had become a model of unity and cooperation, with the bond between the Igbo and Hausa communities stronger than ever. They continued to be active in their community, working to ensure that the spirit of understanding and respect they had championed lived on. They became respected elders, known for their wisdom and their role in fostering the harmonious blend of cultures that now defined their home. Their love story was told and retold, a source of inspiration for future generations. It was a reminder that love, when coupled with mutual respect and a willingness to embrace diversity, could overcome even the deepest divides. Ngozi and Adamu's journey from initial misunderstanding to deep, lasting love is a testament to the power of relationships to bridge cultural divides. Their story illustrates how personal connections can foster broader social change, encouraging understanding and unity between different communities. Through their efforts, they not only found happiness together, but also helped to build a more inclusive and harmonious world. Their legacy lived on in the vibrant, interconnected community they helped create, a place where differences were celebrated and where love truly knew no bounds.